In this video, we'll talk about component configuration in LWC. So each Lightning Web component has its own configuration file. To understand this, let's go and create a component. So I am in my VS Code. Let's create a Lightning Web component, LWC config demo. And now if you look at the component structure, there is a file with the extension js-meta.xml. So this is the configuration file of this component, and this file takes couple of tags. Okay, so let's go and talk more about this component file. So the configuration file defines the metadata value for the component, including the design configuration for the Lightning App Builder and Experience Builder. This file contains many tags. The first tag is the API version, and to use the Lightning Web component, our Salesforce API version should be 45 and above. So if I go back to my configuration file, you can see the API version is 50, so we are good to use this component. Then we have a second tag, that is description tag, and it is a short description of the component, usually a single sentence. So let's go and add this description here. And this component explains meta configuration. So this is a short description about this component. Then we have a third tag, is exposed. By default, this tag is false, and if this tag is false, it means your component you can't expose on the Lightning App Builder or Experience Builder. So if you go back, you can see it's by default false. If we change this to true, then we can expose our component to a Lightning App Builder or Experience Builder. But whenever you change this is exposed to true, the targets tags are very much important. We'll talk about targets in a minute. Then the fourth tag is the master label, and this is the title of the component, and this is the label that you will see in the Lightning App Builder when you're searching for your component name. So let's add this label, master label, and here you will say meta config demo. Let's go to the next tag, that is the targets tag. So targets and target works together, and we use targets tag to specify where the component can be added, such as on the type of Lightning page or in the embedded chat service. Under the targets tag, we define the targets that tells what all Lightning page you can expose. We have so many types like app page, home page, flow screen, tabs, community, snapping chat messages and all. So let's go and add the targets. I'll say targets, and under the targets you can define the target, and we already use few targets in the previous videos. So the most commonly used is the app page. We have record page, home page, utility bar, tab, flow screens and all. But for this demo, I'll use this target. And then we have target configurations and target config. So target config is a subtag of target configs, and target config tag supports the property type, objects and supported form factor subtag. And let's go and create the target configs. So I'll say target configs, and under the target configs we have a subtag called target config, and this tag tells about what configuration you want for these pages. So first we'll set the target that tells to this configuration for which target your configuration should apply. So let's say target as I'll say I want to target Lightning record page, And for the lightning record page, I want to set some configuration. The first one is the property. And if you want to know about property, so this tag specify a public property of a component that can be set in the Lightning app builder, and the component author defines the property in the component's JavaScript class using the API decorator. So suppose you want some configuration or some property to come from the app builder to your component, then you create this property, and you can control this property with a target config that says this property should only enable when your component is placed in the lightning record page. So let's say property name field should be the same name that you're gonna use in your JS file to cache that value from the app builder. So I'll say I want to receive title or record ID. We can say record ID, and we'll say this type should be string. And let's see about other tags as well. So before that, we have objects and object. Object is a subtag of objects, and object tag allow you to expose component to a specific object. So now consider you are exposing your component to a target record page. Now if you are exposing your component to a record page, you can place it into the record page of contact, you can place it into the accounts, you can place it on the opportunity. But suppose you want to restrict further down to a specific object, so you can do that with the tags objects. So you can say I want this configuration to apply on a record page. In that, the property should be record ID, and this configuration should be only enabled for a specific object, and the object name is account. So I want to expose this component only to a account object. Okay, so we are just restricting the record page to a particular object only. Then you can configure it for the other pages as well. So if I copy and paste it here and say I want to place this component to a app page, but in the app page I want some other configuration, so I'll set the configurations, and there are different types of configuration available. So let's go and see about those configuration. So under the property tag, you can define different types of attribute. You can define data source that tells about like a pick list value that you want to select from the app builder. Then you can set the label, you can set the max and min value if you are using an integer type. You can set the name is a required field for all the property tag. Then you can set a required attribute to tell every time whenever you set something in the property that should not be empty. Okay, and then there are four types available: boolean, integer, string, and color. Color only works in the flow if you are placing your component in the flow. So let's go and see this. So first I'll create a property. I'll give this name heading. I'll keep this type as a string, and then I'll say we can have a default text. So if you want to send some default text, you can set it here. So I'll say default text should be meta config in LWC, and that's our first property. We can set another property of type integer. So I'll say property name age, and its type equal to integer. I'm this time expecting an integer value. We can control its min and maximum value the user can set. So I'll say min value the user should set 5, and max value the user should set 10, and we can set the default value to 7. Similarly, we can set data source like a pick list value. So I'll say property label level. I'll say name as levels. Then I want what type, it's string type. Then I want data source. Data source is the list that you want to show on the pick list. So I'll say high, medium, low, and I'll say default value I want to set it as high. So let's set it as high, and let's close this. Let's keep L capital. So now we have set up our whole configuration, right? But we haven't did anything in our JS file. Now we have to map this value that we are expecting to come from the app builder, like name, record ID we are expecting the heading, we are expecting the age and the level. So let's go to a HTML file, and let's say we want, first we'll create a lightning card. I'll say title, and I want the title to come from parent. And which file can pass me the heading? I'll say this heading should come from here, and I'll copy this and paste it here as well. I want the heading to come for both the pages, whether it's a record page or an app page. So I can say heading will come from the parent, and we'll make a property heading here, and this property should be publicly exposed. And to do that, we can say @API, and we can import the API from the LWC module. Now this heading property will come from the app builder, and you can change that property. By default it will be meta config in LWC. Then we are expecting another property to come as record ID. We can go to a JS file, we can say @API record ID. Then we can go to a JS file, we can check another properties as well that we are setting. We are setting age, you can say @API age, and we are setting @levels, so @API levels. And in the HTML we can print these things. So first we'll create quickly a div with the padding. So I'll give a padding SLDS padding around medium, and here I'll print the record ID. So record ID will only come when we place this record ID in the record page, because this meta file will only expose this record ID to a lightning record page. Okay, so next thing, heading, we are already placing it here. I'll create a p tag, and I'll say my age is, and the age will come from the app builder. I'll map the age, and then we can place the levels as well. So I'll say my IQ is in the level. So let's deploy this now and see how it behaves. So now it's deployed. Let's go to our app. So I'm in the 0 to Hero app. I'm in a LWC fundamental lightning page. This is an app page. So let's go and edit the page and place our component here. And now we have to search our component name based on the meta label that we have defined, meta config demo. So let's go and search our component name. You can see meta config demo is coming here. So let's place it in the top of the right hand side. And now as soon as I place it, you can see that on the right hand side the heading is coming meta config in LWC, and this heading coming by default because in the configuration file we have set it here the default as meta config in LWC. You can update it here. You can say LWC config demo, and as you click outside it update immediately. Then the age is there. Age is defaulted to 7, minimum is 5, and maximum is 10. So if I change it to 1, it immediately throws an error. It says the value only at least 5 and the at most 10. So I'll make it at 6 this time. and it immediately print my age is 6. Then we have a data source that is pick list, and that is defaulted to high, so it's coming as high here. If I want to change it, I can change it to medium, and immediately it print my IQ is medium. Now if you look at, there is no record ID is coming, but record ID we already expecting here, right? So it's not coming because we are not exposing that record ID to app page, we are only exposing it to record page. So let's save this and let's go back. And now you can see that the age is coming correctly, the IQ is coming correctly, record ID is not coming because we are not exposing, the heading is coming correctly. One more thing, I want to do it quickly. If I go to HTML, I want to put this p tag under the div, and I'll wrap the record ID under the p tag again, so that the padding should apply to all the p tags. Let's deploy this again. Now let's go and place this component to a record page. So I'll go to accounts, and I'll select account record, and now I'll edit this page, and let's place our component in the record page, and I'll search for again a component name meta config demo. I'll place it component on the right hand side, and now you can see that we are exposing two property only. If I go back to my meta file, the first property is record ID, second property is the heading, and heading is coming, so I can say meta config in LWC record type. I'm updating the heading, it's immediately updating here as well, and you can pass the record ID. And if will not pass, because record ID will come automatically based on the record type, so it will map automatically, you can pass it from here as well. So let's hit save and go back, and if you see here, the record ID is coming based on the record ID that automatically come based on the @API. You can override that as well by changing it in the app builder. Age and IQ we haven't defined, so it's not coming, and we updated the heading and the heading is coming. So this is how you can play around with the configuration, and this is very helpful when you are building the reusable component. So you can build it once and you can reuse it again and again. You just need to change the properties from the app builder, and it will immediately update or reflect in the page. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.